Been a while since I've had a Collings in the shop, so there was a couple things I wanted to do while it was in here. We're going to play the guitars. I'm going to compare it to two other guitars. We're going to have a three guitar comparison here. Stuck my GoPro on inside of two of them so we can look on the inside of the guitar and compare the bracing and that kind of thing. And then I took some measurements. And so with all that, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to play the guitars first because that's really what everybody wants to hear. And then if you stick with me to the end, then you can hear me chit chat. All right, let's take a look now at the shots of the interiors of each of these guitars. And now the 41 didn't make it on the shot. I already got it later. I didn't want to take the strings off. I don't think I did. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to see. I know I got at least... No, I didn't. I know I got the Collings and I got the Bluegrass 16. And the reason I did that, they're both forward X brace. So the X brace is an inch away from the sound hole right now. The 41A is a rear X brace, and I didn't video it. It's in another video if you want to go look at it. But what you want to look at on the interior shots, look at where the scalloping starts after the X. So here's the X brace. Here's the X right here. And look at how the scalloping comes off of the X. And on the Martin, you will see that it comes off pretty quick. And on the Collings, you will see that it tapers for a little bit and then makes a little bit of a dive. That's an individual voicing thing. I've had a few customers ask me over the years, mostly quite a while ago. Collings guitars have changed over the years, as we know. And this is a new one, pretty new one, I think. Anyways, it's really nice. I like it a lot. But there was a period in there where I'd get, every now and then I'd get a question from a Collings guy. He said, I'd like to have just a little bit more bass. And I could go in and scallop the X brace just a little bit because, as you'll see, it starts to scallop a little bit farther away from the X brace, and I would give it just a little bit more scallop. And I'm talking about like maybe 5 strokes of the file, not much. And it would warm that bass up just a little bit. So take a look at that. Take a look at the side strips on each guitar. You can see the strips on the sides of the guitars. Take a look at the cleanness of the brace work, and just explore around in there. Take a look at the inside of the guitar. See what you think. What we want to look at on this is I just videoed the inside of the guitar, so I'm stringing it up. This is a stock nut on this Martin, And I am a big stickler about having even spaces in between the strings. Not equal center to center, but equal spaces. And I've explained this before in a couple of the videos I have on making that. But I want to compare the spacing on this one to the spacing on the Collings that's sitting over there on the bench. So that's what we're going to do now. While I had all this set up, I went in and jumped into it this way. So got my calipers here, and I'm going to measure in here, and I ought to write this down for future, because I'm going to add it to my database eventually. So let me find my pencil. There's my pencil. Okay, this is somebody's spec sheet that I didn't send to him. So I'm going to measure calipers in between. And I get 275. 0.275. That's E to A. Let's see how consistent Martin is here. And actually, that's not bad. That's like 277, which honestly is about as close as I can get it. 0.277. It's not bad. Okay, let's just scoot across here. This one looks narrower. No, it's not. 276, that's pretty good. This one's a little bit narrow. This one is 270. And so is this one, 270. So on this particular guitar, the space between the E and the B and between the B and the G is about 0.005 of an inch less than the rest of them. And you know, that's not bad. If you were going to make a mistake, I would so much rather have a little less space on the trebles than on the bass string, because I like the room on the bass string for when I'm making chords. And by the way, 0.005 of an inch difference is this much. It's nothing. It really is not. I mean, that's a very acceptable tolerance there. Let's see what this sheet is. This ought to be about 0.002 of an inch. And it is 0.003 of an inch. So it's a sheet of paper difference, and that's insignificant. Frankly, I'm surprised at how good that is. And also, what this demonstrates here is that on a newer guitar like this, Martin uses equal distance between strings. When you get to the vintage guitars, they will use equal center to center, and that's probably why that bugs me, is because I'm used to these. And, you know, I just know that I actually stole the equal distance from a Martin nut that I had in there from an OM 28, and I copied the specs because the guitar played really good for me. And then I discovered later on that it was equal distance. And for my measurements here, this is 1.560 from E to E. Let me write that down. E to E, 1.560. Which is not too bad. When I make nuts on 1 11/16 inch guitars, they end up being just under 1.5. So this is a little bit wider spacing. I do feel, well, it's a 1 3/4 inch neck, so it ought to be wider. I do feel like this guitar feels just a little bit wide to me sometimes. And if I ever was to make another nut, which I'm not going to do because the spacing was really good, I would probably squeeze this in just a hair, you know. Yeah, you know, I'd probably drop it in about 0.010 of an inch more in from the edge, just to, I like the way it feels when there's a little bit more room on the edges here. It feels more like the inner strings. Anyway, talking too much on that, so let's just see what this distance is from the edge to the first fret. At the first fret, from the edge to the string. And the reason I do it there is because that's where you put your finger, not up there at the nut. 1.15. No, 0.115. And that's a good measurement. I know from experience that that's a perfectly good measurement. Same. Well, they did a great job on this nut. I personally would not change a thing on that nut then. If, like I said, if for some reason I had to make a new one, I would squeeze it in just slightly to make it more like about, like, oh, I don't know, 1.525 or 1.53 or something like that. But it is nothing. Martin did a great job on the nut, spacing and everything. So let's take a look at the Collings now. I'm just curious just what Collings does on the nuts here. So we're going to do this live and see what we get. Let's start first of all with the E to E. And on this guitar, it is 1.512. Quite a bit less than this one. Let me write this down. Collings 1.512. And the Martin was 1.560. So, that's not a bad thing or a good thing or anything like that. I'm just commenting on it because if I found this guitar to play super, super comfortable for me, I want to know why. The Martin has quite a bit wider E to E spacing. They're both 1 3/4 inch necks. The Martin has a binding on it though, and I would not be surprised. I should probably go measure it. I will go measure. It's probably just a smidgen wider. This one's just a little under 1 3/4, and I bet the Martin is just a little bit over 1 3/4. And then from the edge, and this one's also in from the edge more. From the edge of the fingerboard to the E, 115. That's a shame. It looks more. This is why you measure stuff. Because when you eyeball that, I would have thought it was more. And 120. So it's actually, let me do that again. I don't think Collings would do that. Let me get down here so you can see it. There we go. Yeah, 115. I like that measurement better. So that distance from the string, from the fingerboard to the edge of the string is exactly the same, exactly as I can measure on both of these guitars. And so that's good to know. I actually originally used that measurement from Collings Clarence White that I had. Collings is really, really big on perfection. And, I have great respect for them for that. I have been to the Collings factory and toured it when Bill Collings was alive and actually gave us the tour. And the precision in there was just insane. It's like a machine shop. All right, so let's measure in between here. And I'm getting 257. That's almost exactly what I use for 1 3/4 inch necks, by the way. When I'm doing a nut, I set the calipers to, 0.257. 0.257. That's what I set my calipers to when I do a 1 11/16 inch nut. So they're using a much tighter spacing on this. If you recall, the Martin was 0.275, which is 20 thousandths of an inch wider. So the Martin has a greater string-to-string spacing, and I can already tell you from the measurements then, because this E to E, the edge to E was the same on both guitars. This spacing is narrower, therefore, and the spacing on the outer E's was narrower, therefore, that Martin neck has got to be a little bit wider than 1 3/4. It's probably like 1.760 by just doing the simple math here. So anyway, okay, so what do we have here? Again, 0.257, right? Yeah, there it is, okay? It's in between 5, 5, and 60. And, I don't care if it's 7 or 8. It's 7. And over here, 265. Did I bump that? Yeah, no, there it is. It's a little wider here. I wonder if they're using equal center to center. Let's see what the rest of them are. 262. That's close enough. And over here, 265. Pretty good. These are all consistent now. And over here, on the B to the E, we're getting close to 270. That's surprising. The Collings is less consistent than the Martin, but not bad still. Still pretty close. So let's go over that again. So basically, the distance between I see 5 distances: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, distance 1, distance 2, distance 3, distance 4, and distance 5. Distance 2, 3, and 4 are very close. Distance 5 is a little bit greater, and distance 1 is a little bit narrower. So, still not, well, it's 10,000ths of an inch, the difference between here, because this was, I'm getting close to 6-0 this time. No, there it is. You got to be sure you don't push your strings apart, because this is a pretty critical measurement. And one thing you can do is lock your calipers, and you push them back and forth, and then make sure you can go it in without moving the dial. And so locked in at 257, I come over here and I can move it. But, I mean, just barely. Even though the measurement is off a little bit, when you put the calipers, the locked calipers in there and move it, it is like just a tiny, tiny movement. So, in practicality, this is pretty good, really. I have seen guitars with a 30,000ths of an inch difference, and that's a little too much. Here we have a total of 10,000ths of an inch difference. That's not that big of a deal. If you wanted to fix that, what I would do is just take a nut file and scoot that low E over. I might fill that in with a piece of bone and scoot that low E over just a hair. But it is not even close to being significant to do this. So, pretty good. I'm surprised it's 2.6. Well, see, the other ones were 260. And that is a little bit bigger than I use on the 1 11/16 inch neck. Like I said, I usually can set my calipers at about 0.257 of an inch for a 1 11/16 inch nut. And this one is just under 1 3/4. I'm going to put a little minus on it. I tend to space the 1 11/16 out just a little bit because I like the feel of a wider neck, and so, you know, I can get away with that. So it is a little bit wider than an 11/16, but it's nowhere near the Martin, which was a 277. See, that's 15,000ths of an inch difference, and that's a high E string, almost a B string. B string is 16, 17. That much difference between each. So, yeah, that's probably getting in a spot where you can feel. I bet this neck feels, you know, narrower than the Martin does. Good neck. I don't think I played this guitar. It's in for a bridge reglue. The bridge came off for some reason. So we're done with all the measurements and everything. I've got video of the inside. You already know this. I've got video of the inside of the guitar. I've got some measurements on the neck. So we're going to move inside and play them now. I'll compare this to the Martin, and then also probably to the D-28 41A, since we have the camera running, and we might as well. So catch you inside. All right, here's my impressions of sitting here playing these guitars and literally putting one down and picking the other one up. So sometimes in the past I would do an A-B by recording all of the parts and then splicing them, but I got lazy one day and I started just playing the parts in order, and I realized something is that I get however many things I play, 5 or 6 pieces. Every time I do that, I get a fresh A-B perspective on it. So I compared the Bluegrass 16, Custom Shop Bluegrass 16, the CSBG. I compared it to the Collings, and the reason I did that is because they're both 1 3/4 inch necks, and they're both forward X bracings. So the bracing starts right here. There's quite a few other differences. This one's Indian rosewood. The CS is a Guatemalan rosewood. So it has a large sound hole. This has a regular sound, but there's lots of other differences in there. We're not doing a direct A-B comparison. I'm not trying to compare 2 manufacturers. I'm just saying this is a really good Collings. That's a really good Martin. Which sound do you prefer? And here's some reasons why you might prefer that kind of sound. for your information. So that's all we're doing here. We're just saying, do you like this sound? Do you like this sound? Do you like this sound? We're not making it better or worse or anything like that. But I put the BG on here and this one because they both have the forward X bracing and the 1 3/4 inch necks. And so that was two major things. And then I added the 41 Authentic, this guy, simply because it was sitting around here. I might as well throw it on a video. The 41A has a rear X brace. So the bracing is back here. It's 1.5 inches away from the sound hole. It's back here. It has a 1 11/16 inch neck, and it is Madagascar rosewood. But if you like the sound of this one, then those are things that you might want to know to try to replicate this sort of sound. And if you like the sound of the Collings, then you might want to look that direction. So it's just an opportunity to hear three really top-notch D-28 style guitars here. So that's all we did. I don't care about the strings. The strings are pretty fairly recent. But the strings don't influence the boom of the guitar and the treble snap, because the treble strings are unwound anyways, and they never go dead. And they're all in good shape, and they're clean, they're not sweaty, they're not bent. So don't worry about the strings. I use the same pick on everything. Strings are just such a minor thing, really, in the... I can hear past the string, in other words. Unless they're like extremely dead and green and grody strings, then you got a problem. But these are all good strings, don't worry about it. Learn to listen past the strings. So, the Collings, that's our guitar here. The first thing I noticed about the Collings is this one sounds really, really good. It's got a real nice, warm sound, which I've owned 2 Collings in the past. I've worked on a bunch of them, 10, 15, something like that. I know them pretty well. I have a tremendous respect for Collings guitars. Their workmanship is superb. And, like I said, I toured the Collings factory one time, and Bill himself gave us the tour, and it was just, it was inspiring. So I really like Collings guitars. I just don't have any. I have. All right, this one sounds really good. Really good. It's really got more of the warmer sound that maybe Collings didn't have in the past, when they were maybe a little bit brittle, a little bit sterile sounding. Not sure on this one. The neck, I'm sure, contributes a lot to that. But I see a little bit of difference in the bracing now from previous Collingses. And anyway, this one's tremendous. Every time I pick it up, what I noticed right away was the mid-range. Boy, man, it's got punch. It's a very well-balanced guitar. It's got really good bass, it's got really good mid-range, and it's got really good trebles. Whereas some of the Martins, you might say they're scooped a little bit. Like the mid-range drops a little bit. Maybe it's a little warmer sounding. Things like that. So when I picked up the Collings, every time it was a punchy guitar. I would not call this guitar mellow in any sense of the word. The 41 Authentic, when I went to the cross-picking stuff, it had a warmer, mellower, smoother sort of sound, like this. Boy, you can hear how those mid-ranges just pop out of there, which is good. I would use that to my advantage if I was playing this guitar, but I would not call this a mellow guitar at all. This is a pretty aggressive guitar, which is cool. When I hit 9-pound hammer, man, I mean, you can pull that out of there. Really good. Another thing I noticed about this Collings over Collings in the past, I thought I couldn't get dynamics out of them as much. It was like I hit a note, and if I hit it really soft, it was still at volume 9. And then when I hit it hard, it was at volume 9.5. And so it seemed like I couldn't ever get the dynamics that I wanted sometimes. I didn't feel that way about this one at all. When you do the cross-picking thing, for instance, the dynamics are very well there. So the whole deal of the cross-picking thing is to be able to pull the melody out while doing the little brush and the additional notes and have them stay back in the background, That's where you use your dynamics. So the brush kind of goes back in there. I can make it go away a little bit. So it's just in the background and the melody's popping. And in the past, I didn't feel like I could really get that with Collings. It was almost like they were all the same volume. This one doesn't. This one's really good. See, I'm able to bring notes up as I go around it. So that's something I noticed about this one over some past ones, perhaps. And it's probably all due to the sunburst. Because, now seriously, this is a fantastic sunburst. This is gorgeous. Anyway, that's just something I noticed about this one. What else about the Collings? The neck is good. It's a little roundy. It's just a little bit rounder than I would like it, but it's perfectly good, It's just that if I had my perfect preference, I would have just a shade bit more V on this neck. I don't think the Bluegrass 16 has the V either, but it's a little bit of a thinner neck. And that Bluegrass 16 is just got a really good neck for me. It's an MLO neck, which I didn't know till I looked up the specs. But when I first reviewed this guitar before it was mine, a couple of years ago, I commented, wow, this neck really works good for me. And then I found out it was the MLO neck that so many people just hate. But I get along really good with it. This neck feels like a D18, a 1937 authentic. Not quite that bulky, but it's got that round shape to it. And so it's a good neck. I would adapt to it very, very quickly. So I'm just making comments on it, that it's not a particularly V shape. It's more of a C shape feeling neck to me. The taper is really nice. The taper from the thickness of the first fret to up here is very consistent. I can tell it tapers a little bit, but it's nothing like a Martin, a D-28 37 authentic. The one that goes super thin, it goes, really massive. Nothing like that. This is a very nice taper. It's even less taper than the 41 authentic. The 41 starts out super, super thin down here, and then gets up to a very comfortable thickness up in here. But the first 2 frets, 3 frets, even are like kind of thin. I get used to it, but I wish I would have put a little bit more meat on it. Collings neck is really good. It's not like that. It's a very nice taper from here to here, very consistent. And the reason that's important to me is because when I'm moving up the neck like this back and forth, my hand stays consistent and it doesn't go like this up at the nut and then have to go like this up here. So big taper necks, you're going like this, super thin up here, and then boom, like this all of a sudden. It really, it's okay when you get up here and work, and you get up here and work, and you get down here and work, but when you're moving, it's just not super comfortable. But not true of this one. This one's really good. So I can deal with a lot of different neck profiles as long as the taper is good. This is really good. So let's see what else about the Collings. The tops are really, really stiff. In the past, Collings would always feel stiff to me because they have a little bit of a longer scale. It's a 25.5-inch scale rather than Martin 25.4. I think that's minuscule. But what I notice about Collings, and I can feel in my right hand, I can feel whether a top is loose or stiff. It's by how much the string gives. It's a very, very subtle thing. You probably have to be pretty sensitive and pretty advanced to feel that. But like if I'm doing a rest stroke or something, even the strum, you can feel it on the strum, how much it gives. And when you get on a string like this, you can feel the top. You can feel the top as well as the string. So I've noticed the Collings have pretty stiff tops. And if you sit here on this one and you push in on it like this, let's see if we can, I know you can get some deflection on the camera. Watch this top. Watch the light shine off of it here as I push in. I mean, it's hardly budging, That's part of the sound. I really think, yes, I'm going to do this. I have a top thickness gauge here. I'm going to measure that now that I thought of it. Watch this Martin, though. I really think they have a slightly thicker top than a Martin. So watch this one. I can feel that. I can feel that top moving in. And you can probably see it if you watch the light there. If you watch that light shining on the video, you can probably see this. Let's tap it. Okay, listen to this one. Listen to the boom too coming out of that sound. The boom, boom, boom. That sound. Listen to the whole thing. I'm dampening the strings, but you want to hear that boom, 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 that echo. As well as the tone off the top, you want to listen to the echo. So let's get the 41 out, and we'll go back around if we need to. One more time. Sounds like a drum. Not quite. It's a tight drum. Push on the top of this 41A. You can definitely see that inflection. It's not a soft top, but it's a loose top anyway. So, okay. So overall, the Collings, I like it. It's heavy. You know, it's way heavier than the 41A. The 41A is definitely the lightest in the bunch. It's heavy. Collings used, maybe they used to. I'm pretty sure they still do. They use steel rods in the neck here as a reinforcement along with the adjustable truss rod. And you can feel a little bit of extra weight. It's not annoying. During the 2000s, about 2000, maybe 2000, and even up to 2010, I would get Collings in and I would pull them out, and they were heavy. I mean, I noticed it. I would weigh some guitars, and like I had a Clarence White, like I told you, 1992 Clarence White, Collings Clarence White, Brazilian Adirondack. It weighed 220 grams, 2,200 grams, 2,200 grams. And I thought that was about normal. I got some Collings in later that were 3,200 grams. Same thing, Indian Rosewood, and it just seems like the build got really heavy. I don't really feel that on this. It's no heavier than this guitar. The CS. This one's Guatemalan back and side, the 1 3/4 inch neck. And these two, this is my stronger hand, but they're close. I pick up the CS and it feels heavy. It's just a little heavy to me. The 41, no, it feels light. I pick it up, it feels light. So, overall conclusion on this Collings, this is a great guitar. This particular one, because that is the one we're looking at here. This particular guitar, really, really nice. And I know the guy that owns it has been a long-time friend of mine, customer for 30 years. Long time. And I do think this guitar probably suits his playing style really good. It's clear, crisp, very well balanced, very versatile. It does all those kinds of styles really good. It's not just strictly a bluegrass kind of guitar. That covers that very well. It did the swing chords really well. Maybe a little bit harsh because it's a little bit brighter, but it has really good pop. In the past, I didn't feel like Collings had this woof to him, this percussion to him. But this is good. Let's compare it. That comes out in your strum and your swing chords. That's not the woofiest guitar I have. Listen to this one. This is my Pro OMD. This is the woofiest guitar in the world. Listen to this one. That literally is like a drum. This has got the loosest top, most responsive guitar ever. I mean, it's a drum. This one literally is a drum. So, all that stuff comes out when you're playing rhythm, and that's how you get that percussive whop. The fact that the Collings is, man, sitting in here pretty good at these shows a definite difference and change in the sound of these new ones than the older ones, and so I'm very pleased on that. Like I said, I never felt on my Collings, even my Clarence White, that I could get the G string. I'm sorry, the strum. That, and this shit sounds good. So that's something I noticed about this one. The rhythm is really good. I have no complaints. My hands are so dry I can't hold on to that pick. So, there we go. It's getting it. This one probably doesn't have it because of the large sound hole, but so you're listening for that percussion that's in there. That it's a very important part of the bluegrass rhythm sound, in my humble opinion. This one probably has the most of it because the smaller sound hole is keeping it in there and giving that percussion thing. And but man, this Collings is right in this mix. And in the past, I didn't think so. In the past, it seemed like they were a lot more. I could never get that sound. That was always my complaint on Collings. The one complaint. So, great guitar, okay? They came in for a bridge we glued. The bridge came loose for some reason. I glued it back up, and it's looking great. Sounds good. Everything else is terrific. Rare for a Collings bridge to come off. They use a very aggressive glue. But who knows? You maybe got hot, maybe, who knows, you know. So I glued it back up. Looks good. Everything's hunky-dory. All right.